It's April the 20th. And I'm Joel, and you are joining us live for another daily briefing. And my guest today is our good friend, Marcel Zuhl. Marcel, please say hello.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back. I heard I was fired last week, but apparently I got my place back in. It's amazing.
It's amazing how that works. Yeah, Tim had to travel today, so he's actually in New York, which I'm like, dude, please be careful. But hey, you know what? His loss is our gain. So, Marcel, it's good to have you back. Are you surviving or thriving, or what's been keeping you busy since we last saw you?
I've been so busy. I mean, not only with new projects, but also I'm trying to do all sorts of things that we never have time for. So I always try to keep, myself and the team busy. So we're going 100 miles an hour.
Well, it's good I'm glad you could join us today. I was going to share a couple quick bits of news and updates for everyone here. First of all, it has been a month since we started doing this daily briefing. So Marcel, thanks for jumping in with us right from the very beginning. It's been fun. Also, in the news, it looks like more stimulus money for more PPP funding is coming. So we should know, I think in the next couple of days, whether or not Congress is going to allocate another, I don't know if 150 or 250 billion for PPP loans. For those of you that didn't get your money, there's a good chance that you will now. I also forgot to mention on Friday that the Rev Thinking podcast, hosted by yours truly, is back, sort of back with our regularly scheduled programming. And we just released an episode with Joanne Chan at Turner Duckworth. She's the CEO there, about maintaining independence. And then today I recorded an episode with Filippo, my good friend who runs Digital Design Days. That conference is happening in May, but it's not what you think. It's DDD online. And I think there's over 10,000 people that have registered for that thing, Marcel. So are you gonna show up and watch that thing, or can I drag you in as a speaker? What's the deal?
Yeah, I love that. It's funny because I was talking to a friend of mine, Marcelo. He runs Combustion out of São Paulo.
Yeah,
and
he's
going to be part of it. So I'm super excited. I was thinking when you were seeing the conference, it's so funny because I was supposed to be in Barcelona this week for off, and off is moved to September, and I'm like knocking on the wood that this is going to happen,
For sure. Same thing with DDD. The DDD Milan conference may happen in October. So fingers and toes crossed that we'll all be back there in Milan come October. And man, how cool would it be to be back in Italy of all places? And we're here, we made it through this. So man, I hope that can happen. Oh, thanks. Ethan posted a link there to the podcast. So once we get the episode about DDD online, we'll post it for you. But Ethan, do me a favor and at least post the link to ddd.it, because it's free. It's 3 days. There's 108 speakers. It's nuts. So everyone should take advantage of this. It's going to be way, way cool. Let's see, what other thing? Let's go ahead and first of all say what the topic is today. Marcel, I'm really curious to get your thoughts on this topic, because I know this has been on your brain. We're going to be talking about negotiating after COVID. And let's remind everyone, jump in with comments, with questions. If you have news or updates for the group here, please drop your comment or even raise your hand and we'll drag you into the conversation. But Marcel, what are you hearing? What are you seeing out there? Because when you said, I want to talk about negotiating after COVID, I immediately said, yes, but wait, what do you mean? What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about this because I feel like the America or the world that we all know before COVID, it's, in the past. So it's a new world and new, relationships, and there's a lot of room for negotiation. And I mean, I've been talking to a lot of clients, and negotiating to me has been a lesson for the past six weeks. Negotiating with clients, negotiating with freelancers, negotiating a project that you had. It was a big budget. Now it's half of the budget because the live action portion is gone. Now it's all animation. So there's a lot of like room for negotiation. And I think it's like, it opened the market a little bit more. I feel like we were in a trap before COVID that, especially with like freelancers and clients, it would be like, hey, here's a project. And then you negotiate, go back and forth a little bit, book your people, put your staff, your freelancers. But now it's a new sort of like game. And I've been seeing this like, for the past couple of weeks with my executive producers and head of production, that we have to be open for negotiation, like not only on the studio side, but also getting our partners, to be part of this negotiation with us. I'm not saying let's lowball people. That's not the plan, but we just need to adapt to the new reality, which is like, smaller projects, or maybe you're going to do a little bit more volume. So you have to be smart about negotiating with people a little more. So it's not the same, like exactly formula as before. Now it's like it opened a little more room for negotiation.
Well, here's a question I have for you, because I was talking to a few owners who said in the early weeks of the pandemic that they heard freelancers that were trying to command a top price, like a premium, more than what they charged in the past. And I thought that was really strange, because I thought, well, wait a minute, when the world is upside down, people get scared, budgets go down, and that rolls downhill, so to speak. So I would have expected freelancers would be more willing to negotiate. Again, not that owners are taking advantage of anyone, but what was your experience? Were you hearing rates, people were starting to be more flexible and more open-minded, or maybe were they panicking in those early weeks?
Yeah, well, again, I want to start. This is my opinion, and I know that I'm talking to a lot of people here, so I don't want people to think that I'm, that guy. But as a studio owner, I have to say that rates were like insanely high. It's too much. And then, like a few months ago, I had this conversation with my EPs and head of production. I say, hey, we have a ceiling for day rates. It doesn't matter how good the guy is. I think state only pays up to here. If it charges more, we don't work with this person. It's just that the reality. Because sometimes you're like, okay, I want to book some people here, and they charge a lot, and then I go, well, this guy makes more money than I make. I don't even feel comfortable with if my staff finds out that I'm paying this much money for a freelancer. You create like a problem, for me in the studio. But now I can see, again, we're talking about rates of like, an animator, like a 600, $700, which to me, it's a lot. It's a lot of cash, but it's fine. Sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to hire this person. But I noticed that some of the freelancers were going above and beyond that. And I'm like, no, I try to bring them back to what my ceiling is, So I'm like, okay, this is the top rate I can give you. If you wanted to work with me, sure, this is how much I can pay you. If not, thank you so much. I'm going to try to find someone else. And I've been seeing like a lot of freelancers like adapting, but we're talking about big rates here. Even though that if that extremely high rate goes down a little bit, it's not that you're paying someone $15 an hour. You're paying this person $600-$700 a day, which is a lot. So again, I've seen a lot of flexibility there. Some people are not flexible at all, which is I totally respect, and I feel like if that person thinks that he or she's worth that much money, it's fine. But I think there's room, if you think about like a person who was charging like $600 and they start charging like $750, it's like $150 difference. But then if that person loses like a day of booking and you spread that in a week, that's like, it doesn't make any sense that you're charging, $100 more, but you're getting a shorter booking. So to me, it's like fighting that battle and even like trying to understand that negotiation. That's where we're coming from. We're trying to like understand what the new situation is and negotiate with our freelancers. And most of the time we're just paying what people ask. It's just one of those that they were charging a lot of money that we can bring them back a little bit.
Yeah, I would ask everyone here if you have any experience, and obviously you can keep everything anonymous, but I would just love to hear if anyone's had any experience so far of people initially raising their rates because there's that panic of I've got to get everything I can get right now because everything's about to go nuts, And then as things settle in, people start adjusting to the new reality. But just a couple principles I would share here. And this is stuff that I can say that maybe some of you that are owners here can't say. So I'll take advantage of my luxury. And that is, first of all, as an owner, pay yourself first. And that's a principle. And that means never pay somebody more than you pay yourself, because that is simply a recipe for ultimately undermining you and your business. You're assuming all that risk. You are the reason your business exists. So please pay yourself more than you pay all your people. And I won't call out any names. There's some people here that I know have broken this rule and have regretted it. And the other thing I would say is, I'm always a fan of whether you're hiring an employee or a freelancer, you start by saying, here's what we have budgeted for this job, for this task, for this role. And you just say, here's what we have budgeted. And if the person won't negotiate in good faith based on that number, then that's usually a bad sign, because it should not be all about the money. It should be all about, I want to work with you, your team. I believe in this creative. I'm excited about this brand, like whatever. But if it's all about the money, I mean, Marcel, don't you usually find that those people I don't know, they're not a good fit, especially over the longer term. If you want to work with this freelancer over and over again, it just can't be about the money.
Yeah, well, the money's a big factor, right? When someone thinks about their rates, they think they're worth that money, and I respect that. I think it's amazing that someone takes that positioning. But to me, it's also like and again, especially after COVID, to me, there's room for that conversation. It's not that, again, we're not trying to lowball people. It's just adapting to the new reality. If you think about where budgets are going and rates are going, they're not even compatible, because it's like, okay, so the budgets are going down, the rates are going up. So, but this person can do the entire job. That makes sense. I even say that. I'm like, you can charge me even more if you take this whole project by yourself. I don't care. I'll pay you, $2,000 a day. Can you do it in 5 days? Sure. Here's the project. Do it.
Right.
But
Right. That's just simply being clever and getting somebody to really do a flat bid and be like, if you can get it done twice as fast, go for it. Right.
Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to say here that's interesting. I was having a chat with a friend of mine, and he's a business owner. And Joe, I was saying, I wish I had this mentality when I was a freelancer. I would be a much better freelancer. I feel like, I think about the old days. I was kind of a dick, a little bit. I'm like, dude, I wish I had this mentality. I'm like, okay, I'm charging this much money. I need to get this much done, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense as a business. I mean, if state ever goes down, you guys can hire me as a freelancer, because I'm going to be a badass freelancer, because I'll be like, oh my God, I'm charging this. I need to be on it. Like, it needs to happen for sure, because this is not going to be good in terms of like profit and the company and everyone. Because most of the freelancers, they think it's just about them, right? They don't think that you have to pay producers and your rent and the marketing budget and all that stuff.
For sure. So, and that's, I mean, I would say we have to express empathy, obviously towards our clients, but even towards our vendors, our subcontractors. We do have to maintain, and by empathy, I don't mean that they're in a jam. Yes, of course. But what I mean is they don't understand the realities you're up against. So you have to help them understand. Here's a quote that just came in anonymously, so I won't share who said this, but I thought this kind of nails it. I had a freelancer trying to make up for lost work and move his rate from $750 to $1,000 per day. I found it hard to talk to him about the value of his work not changing, and I can't get more from my client. I mean, we're obviously in a free market, so like you said, Marcel, it's totally okay for anyone to ask whatever they want to ask. But it's also a free market where if you're the buyer, it just may not work for you budgetarily.
Yeah. And here's my 2 cents. I feel like it's part of your team. So that's where I think a situation like this is perfect, because it's time to bring your team together, your producer, your head of production, your EP, and everyone to get together and really try to find the people that you can afford. Because sometimes what I've seen in the past, especially at state, sometimes we will be here like, okay, we're trying to find someone to help us on a project. And then all of a sudden, there's like, all these expensive people. And then I go, but guys, I know you're trying to get rid of the problem, just booking someone, but it's not the case. The case is the project cannot afford this type of artist. It's just that it's impossible. So don't go that way because it's wrong. It's like, oh, we need to buy a car. Okay, let's buy a Ferrari because it's hard to find like a cheaper car. I'm like, no, we cannot do that. Our budget's to buy like a cheaper car. Don't go that way just because you're trying to get rid of the problem. So I feel like getting your people like up to speed and having the knowledge of how to hire, and also like what's the budget limitations, and be true to that. It's okay. It's just like, hey, I cannot afford this, or you try to negotiate. That's where I've been working with EPs and HOPs at State.
Yeah, that's a classic, I would say, producer move, and it's understandable, is, well, I'm going to hire the best person who's the fastest and the best fit and so forth, because I want to make the client happy. Love that thought, but sometimes, I don't know, what's the analogy? The Ferrari is going to get you there really fast, but the Chevy Camaro or the the whatever is going to get you there maybe just as fast. I don't know. It's tough to make those sort of equivalencies, because I want to be sensitive to the fact that every person is an individual and they bring something special to the table. But Marcel, let me ask you this question. I think this is a kind of an interesting point. Now let's turn the table on ourselves. So let's say you're talking to a client and we're now entering this, shall we say, post-peak in the COVID crisis. Because Richard shared this when I thought, okay, we could definitely have a good chat about this. So he says, years ago, when I was in broadcast graphics, I would hear from clients, this is what we have budgeted. We hear that from clients a lot, only to find out later they went with another company that had a huge vision way outside of that original budget. It's not my world anymore, so it doesn't affect me now, but my flags do go up. Now, I have a really strong opinion about how you handle type of a conversation, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Well, I'm with you. You know how I got to work with RevThink. It was because I heard you guys on the podcast explaining how to find out the budget. So I still use that technique. I'll give you like 3 options here. This, and that, or I'll put the creative together and try to understand the budget. It's always like a tricky thing, but there's always more money involved than you think, and it really depends how you're selling the vision. I understand some of the projects are like, you can understand like, okay, what is this project intended for? I'll give you an example. I'm doing a pitch now for a new product. It's a new product from a big ass brand. So huge brand doing a new product. I know this project needs development and they need to figure out the voice of this project. So it's important. So I can go, as long as I'm selling the vision of the project, so I can go really crazy, and then convince them to give me more money. But if imagine that this is like, like a seasonal thing, or maybe like the same product, just trying to advertise for a specific holiday. It's just going to air like 3-4 times and that's it, no more. There is like budget limitation there. So you can tell that the client's just trying to get rid of that problem instead of like figuring out like a bigger, problem. So to me, it's like understanding what's the intention, where they're going to use, and what's the reach, what are they trying to do? So there's a way, and then I use that technique. Then I wanted you to explain that, how your technique is, because it's so awesome. And then I keep using that.
Well, I mean, I was in your shoes for 20 years, so I had to figure out all kinds of techniques and ways of doing this. So I think to Richard's point, what I would say is there are times, sure, where if you have a client and you have a strong trust relationship, there are times they're just going to tell you, look, Marcel, this is the budget, deal with it. Like, don't try and upsell me. Don't try and tell me all these other amazing things you can do. This is the budget. And if that's the truth and you feel comfortable and you trust that person, then okay, fine. But I would say that's the exception, because generally there's an opportunity to just dig deeper. and say, okay, you say this is the budget, but I've got some ideas I want to come back to you with. And this is a simple concept in anchoring. This is one of the things I teach in Jumpstart religiously is pricing. Again, your goal is to get all the money out of the client's pocket. Why? Because yes, money is always a good thing, but it's really more so that you can produce the most awesome result for them and for your studio. But that means coming back with 3 different approaches, you know, a high, a medium, a low, and giving them guidance called, I really heard the problem. I'm hearing you have this problem, and I think if we solve it in this way, it can produce a really valuable result. We can also solve it this way or this way. And when you do that technique, I would say 99 times out of 100, you find out what the real budget is. And that's what you're really trying to figure out. What is the real budget? Because people are going to be telling you, I think in the months ahead, oh, you know, after the pandemic, this is all we have. If that's true, fine. But you should have a conversation called, okay, well, let me help you understand what's possible. And then you use these techniques to actually find out what the real budget is. And I would just say that's part of your job as the creative entrepreneur, is to guide, lead, and ultimately extract as much budget as they actually have.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then also it's funny because we use that technique sometimes, and it's like most of the time clients will go with the middle budget, you know. It's like it's statistically like, you know, accurate. So if you think about you present A, B, or C, they choose B, you know.
Well, you know what it is, Marcel? How many times do you do this? Like I like to label my options, you know, like gold, silver, bronze, or first class, business class, coach. And what you often hear is, ooh, Marcel, that gold approach sounds amazing. Can we get that for the silver price?
It happens a lot, but then you don't want to go that way too, because so 2 things out of this conversation, right? So we're talking about negotiating, right? So to me, you negotiate with your clients. So think about that. Don't feel bad. Push your producers, your executive producer, head of production to negotiate with your freelancers too. Clients are doing that to you. There's a negotiation here. There's a negotiation here as well. I can't be like, okay, here's the budget. I can do your project for this much money. Oh no, we only have the half of the budget. Sure, I'll do it. And then I go and I pay full on rates to everyone. So who is taking the hit? It's me. So no, negotiation is here. Negotiation is there too. Okay, so we can all dance together. Great.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. But then the second part of this conversation is the gold and the silver and the bronze. It's been like a learning process to me. It doesn't matter if you show the gold and then they're like, oh, we really wanted the gold, but we have the silver money. Don't do the gold, do the silver. You know why? Because in their head, once you sign that deal, that whole concept of, oh, we're doing the gold for the silver budget, so they need to work with me, that's gone. In the client's head is like, I bought the gold for this much money, so I won. And it doesn't matter if you're like trying to save money here, it's just going to stress the relationship. It doesn't matter. You're just like risking your relationship. You're putting like, you know, the project in jeopardy. I know you're trying to do the project, but just make sure when there's like a silver budget, do the silver option, which is fine, you know. Don't try to do, because I try to do that so many times. And the frustration on my side just builds up like crazy. Because in their head, it's like, oh, we bought the gold. And I'm like, I'm trying to do the silver with the gold spice, you know, but I'm spending so much money, so there's no more profit left, you know.
Those are wise words coming from experience too. I can tell. And what I would say is this: when someone says to you, can we get the gold for the silver price? I want you to recognize that's the moment you've actually won, because what you were trying to accomplish was figure out what's the real budget. Now, once you know that number, I would say something like, well, no, I can't do that, but here's what I can do. I now can give you this option or this option. This is how you never say no. You always say no, but here's what I can do, and give people options. And this is that art and science of negotiation. And I'm sure you do that on a regular basis, but yeah, you do not want to just give in and say, okay, I'll give you the $300,000 spot for $200,000. I mean, that is a major mistake that's hard to recover from. Yeah.
Well, I want to say something here that I took note. the biggest learning for me as a business owner is to make my producers, executive producer and head of productions, to realize that their job is like making magic, art. I always say this to them. The art direction creative director, they can do amazing things on the creative side. You guys can do amazing things on the production side. Let's say, because in their head it's like, okay, we got a project, let's hire all these people, the expensive people, but then it's not producing. You're not using your brain, you know? It's easy. I mean, even my mom can produce that way. Say, mom, here's a job. Call these people, the top 3 names on each category. Call them, and then we're going to do the perfect project. But then there's no budget for that. So I always try to empower them and say, okay, your job is to make this with this much money. How you're going to do? You have to be a magician. You have to make it happen. I trust you, and I know you can give me your best. So just try to accomplish that. So it's as difficult as making the work, like the creative direction, the art direction. It's complicated.
Thank you for saying that. So here's another encouragement. I often tell a lot of my clients, someone like you or another owner might come to me and say, oh man, my producers and my creatives, they're just fighting all the time because the creatives want more time and the producers want the creatives to get it done. And they're just fighting and arguing and being mad at each other all the time. And I often say, good, it's hard. This is the job, right? Yeah. It's hard. If it was everyone's getting along and everyone's agreeing, then you're not innovating. So this is my encouragement to just, like you said, Marcel, be as tough and demanding in terms of being creative and clever out of your production people as much as you expect it from your creatives.
Yeah. I love what Tim said the other day, that it's like, we were having this conversation and then he told me a story that he had, when he was starting, he had to solve a problem for a studio owner and it was impossible. And then he called the owner and the owner gave him an answer like, Tim, you are the best person to solve this problem for me and I really trust you. Let me know when you figure this out. And then Tim was like, now it's on. I got to figure this out. And he did it, and that's our job. I mean, I know it's impossible, but we can do it. Just try to figure this out. That's pretty much like the empowerment that I've been trying to do here.
So let's give our peers permission right now to know that this is this thing I won't even call it affectionately refer to, because I will say I unaffectionately refer to this concept as the squeeze. And that is, here you are in the middle, Marcel, and on this side you have clients, on this side you have staff and freelancers, and every day that goes by, they're doing this and this and this. And you as the owner have to be able to define, hey, for us to all be successful, we got to find a balance here. And so I just encourage everyone, realize that over time, you're going against gravity all the time. So this is why things like doing we call it the factors, figuring out what your splits are, how you divide the money between the business and the work, and having a cash flow, all these things become these tools that you use to just always stay on top of how are we doing? Are we healthy?
Yeah, and always negotiate. That's my 2 cents. I'm always like, don't get the negotiation from here and don't pass it here. You're gonna fail. There's a negotiation here. I'm gonna negotiate here as well.
That's right. Both sides. Yeah. That's part of your job. So you better just embrace it and figure it out, because it's you over the long term it's going to be pivotal to the health of your business. All right. Well, if anyone has a last final question or comment, please feel free to drop it here. We are at our top of the hour mark here, Marcel. So it's been fun having this conversation. It's good to have you back in the hot seat.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. I feel like this can open to a lot of conversation. I would love to even maybe we come back to this topic and discuss and open for more people to join us, so we can have like a healthy conversation here.
Well, I know I'm going to be diving into some of this pretty juicy later this week in one of my weekly Q&As, where we're going to be talking about how to command premium pricing and how to do high ticket sales, and how selling larger deals, the sales process and the conversation changes. So this will all be top of mind for me this week. So I'm game. I'm down. Well,
Awesome.
Marcel, I think we should wrap it up. And what I'll do is I will give everyone a preview of tomorrow because I am out all day tomorrow for a prior commitment. But that means you and Tim, I think, are taking over. So we're going to have Tim from somewhere in New York chiming in.
Yes, amazing. Yeah, I'll be here. Tim and we've been talking about a new topic. I would love to come back to this. I feel like, it's going to be, I think there's a lot of room for a conversation. I want to bring some people, if you're listening to us, please join us tomorrow. Let's try to, let's talk about this. I feel like it's a scary, but also it's exciting. I feel like there's so much to learn from the situation that I get so excited about it.
Oh yeah. This kind of stuff really gets me fired up because I think well, it's like sales is like a riddle, negotiating is a riddle, and there's never a solution. There's just always more room to learn and innovate. And I think as this new normal emerges, we're going to be back at it again, trying to solve this riddle of how we move our businesses forward and how we continue to negotiate. So thank you, Marcel, for being in the hot seat. Welcome back. And I will miss you tomorrow. So everyone come back tomorrow and invite a friend, and you and Tim will hash it out tomorrow. Sound good?
Yes, sounds like a plan. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Well, thanks everyone for watching today's daily briefing. We'll see you back here tomorrow, same time, same bat channel, and all that good stuff. Until then.
Bye.
Bye.